Okay, hi everyone. Today I am reviewing a book, The Avars, A Steppe Empire in Central Europe, by Walter Pohl, translated from German and published in a recent edition, recent by History Book Standards at any rate, in 2018 by Cornell University Press. But it's translated from a book Pohl originally published in German in the 1980s, but it's been gone through 3 editions. The most recent is 2015. And this is apparently the most comprehensive book on the Avars, and it's something that was kind of new to me. So I had seen Avar miniatures on Gripping Beast and also Curse on Miniatures websites. I didn't really know much about them, and one day I was in the library and I saw this book, but I didn't get a chance to really read it and check it out until recently. So the Avars, basically, they were kind of like the title suggests, they were steppe people. They move into the Carpathian Basin in late antiquity and the early Middle Ages, and they become an enemy of the Byzantine Empire, and they fight with them for quite some time, and then their power is ultimately broken by Charlemagne later on. So I guess I'll let me open my map here and show that's also from Gripping Beast. That's the Avar command. And then, yeah, so as you can see, covered their Khaganate, covered quite a bit of territory from Central Asia, parts of the steppe in Russia and Ukraine, to the Carpathian Basin and parts of Romania today. So interesting state. Like I said, I hadn't really known much about them, but in terms of the book, he covers a lot of ground. It's really comprehensive. It's about 636 pages, including the index. And I will say, as a caveat, a lot of these books I recommend, it's not like purely a story. It's some of it gets pretty technical, getting into historical debates. But ultimately, I think this is a good synthesis of the scholarship on them, and he does a lot of, he does discuss just the historical narrative based on chronicles and archaeology. So just to run through sort of the table of contents, he kind of outlines the identity of the Avars, and gives the normal caveats of, it's a steppe people. It's kind of hard to pin down their origins exactly. He offers some of the different interpretations on that. But the sort of the main, more solid next section discusses the migrations of the Avars into basically the Byzantine sphere starting in the 550s. Then it moves on to their sort of the rise as a state from 567 to 590 AD. Discusses the role of the Avars in the Slavic migrations into sort of Central Europe and the Balkans. The Balkan Wars. Then he moves on to the Balkan Wars of Maurice in 591 to 602, and then he kind of sort of takes a break and discusses the social life of the Avars, the political system, things like that, more day-to-day social and cultural stuff. Then he moves on to the 7th century, and then concludes with the sort of the decline of the Avars as a state in East Central Europe. So a lot there, and like I said, it gets kind of technical in some places. I'm sort of used to reading some of the stuff, but I admit it's not that fun. But I think if you can learn to read a book like this and sort of know, when to kind of mentally skip things, it's got a lot of interesting information. I think it would be really helpful, not just if you want to learn about the Avars, but an interesting period in Byzantine history as well. I think it's quite good, and it offers good descriptions, I would say, of the wars. It's not a military history book, but it does get into those topics. So, but like I said, it's not something you would necessarily want to read for fun, or get like a narrative story per se out of it. But I think, I guess if I can use this review as an opportunity to talk about that a little bit, sometimes, the books that are written in a more casual narrative style, they're kind of counterproductive. If you have a good academic history book, that might not be the most exciting thing to read, but the historian, assuming he's doing his job correctly, and the historian is being a good scholar, it's kind of the idea is, they're putting their cards on the table to tell you, okay, this is what I looked at, this is what I researched, assuming it's not just a bunch of like theory jargon stuff. So because sometimes those books are more narrative, they make a big splash and they get on like the Amazon and New York bestsellers, but when you go to the footnotes, you go to the sources, it's really, really thin, and the author is kind of sacrificing rigor for entertainment. It's not to say you can't balance the two, but anyway, just kind of a general comment on that. But like I said, I think this is an interesting book. I had kind of shied away from so-called Dark Ages stuff because mainly because I think there was too much Viking stuff, Viking media, like several years ago, and I got kind of burnt out on that kind of era. But this book kind of made me more interested in it, and if you follow the channel, I enjoy researching these kind of steppe cultures. So I think you should check it out. You might be able to find a PDF online. I'm not sure. But because the hardcover is kind of expensive, it's like $60 or $50 used. But I think, if you're interested in Byzantine warfare especially, it might be worth the investment, even if it's just to use as a reference book. And he uses a lot of the Byzantine and other Latin and some Latin chronicles, I think, as well, and brings in a lot of also archaeological evidence. So I think it's pretty well presented. I wouldn't get too afraid of some of the more technical aspects of it, but like I said, that's kind of a personal taste issue. It might make it unreadable to you. I don't know. So that's my review. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will talk to you next time.